So from here, we're going to kind of change gears and talk a little bit about Cisco IOS. Now, Cisco IOS is the operating system that we're going to use on our routers and switches to deploy Cisco equipment. Cisco's internetworking operating system is really my operating system of choice. The problem with Cisco IOS, if we want to talk problems first, is the fact that there are so many different versions of it. I mean, you know, deal with Windows operating systems, and you've got XP, Vista, Server 2003, 2008 coming out, you know, right after this program's going live. But in the case of Cisco IOS, you might have 8 different versions of Cisco IOS for one platform. And for the next platform, you might have 10 or 15 versions of iOS. I talked to a gentleman who runs a really large part of a team that runs a very large Fortune 100 company. And he told me in confidence that he has as many as 1,000 different versions of Cisco IOS running in his network live right now. That's a lot of different versions of iOS to understand, but don't be daunted here, because the versions of iOS, although they might be slightly different on a platform by platform basis, the general idea is they're going to look and feel similar from one box to another. Now, different commands may be available on some boxes than others, and certainly a switch operates quite a bit differently than a router. The overall look and feel of the command line interface for iOS is fairly similar on a box-by-box basis. Also, if you talk to companies that get purchased by Cisco, they'll kind of liken it to being assimilated by the Borg. You talk to a company like the company that created VPN concentrators. It was in Boulder, Colorado, and Cisco came in, bought the company. And really, Cisco's model of buying companies and buying new technology is to buy the technology, get the network engineering staff, and get that technology to run Cisco IOS. And really, if you ask the right people at Cisco, they will tell you that they're really a software company. Most people think Cisco as a big hardware vendor, but Cisco's internal focus and what they really look at themselves as, they look at themselves as a software company, and their major product is Cisco IOS. So let's take a look at what it's going to take for us to configure a Layer 2 Cisco switch. Now, what's really interesting about a Cisco workgroup switch is you can take the thing out of the box, plug a bunch of Ethernet cables, and voila, it works. You don't have to do any real configuration of the Cisco switch to have it operate as, well, a switch. The problem with that is, honestly, if you go out and go use a Cisco switch like that, I'm going to strongly suggest as a consultant to go out and go buy something else like Linksys. Because if you're going to do that, you're going to buy all the functionality you get out of the iOS operating system for a Layer 2 switch, and you're simply going to take it out of the box and plug it in and make it work. You're really missing the point of why you should be buying Cisco gear. You bought Cisco gear in the first place to get all of the bells and whistles that Cisco offers with their products. And really, Cisco's philosophy when it comes to iOS is, we're going to give you everything that's possibly out there under the sun, and you can decide what you want to turn on and what you don't want to turn on. But there's a significant difference here between a workgroup switch and, say, a router. A router, straight out of the box, every single interface is shut down. You go to plug into a router, it's basically wasting space in your 19-inch rack. It's not going to do you any bit of good until you have some configuration on it. In the case of a switch, it will work out of the box, but chances are you really didn't want to do it that way in the first place. So what do we have to do on the switch? Well, it's going to give us an initial setup prompt to do some basic stuff. I'll walk you through that script, but as a real network engineer, you probably don't want to use the setup script. Setup script can make mistakes or do some goofy things that you may not want to do. It can get some basic stuff done for you, but you really want to practice on, how to type these commands in yourself. So in learning how to do this stuff, I strongly suggest you watch me do the setup script, and then we'll turn it off and we'll do it ourselves so you get an idea of what you really need to do to set these things up.